You need truth and life. Here is the Brother Leon Show. You better recognize.
What's going on, listeners? This is your boy, Brother Leon, and you are tuning into another episode of the Brother Leon Show. So today, guys, Indianapolis, this one's for you, baby. Yes, we're going to have on the show today Nikki Blaine of Nikki Blaine Couture. And the thing that I want you guys to understand and know is this, is that she is into fashion. She has a boutique and she styles. And so the thing that I want you guys to understand and know, we're going to go into this interview because my question is, how did you make a fur coat? Seriously. Because she's been in this game for a while. And one thing that I want you guys to understand and know is, as a creator, as an artist, as a fashion designer, you have to have an eye. And that's the God knows truth. Let's go in here. You have to have an eye. And that's the God knows truth. You have to have an eye for detail. You have to have an eye for vision and artistry. And so Nikki Blaine is going to explain to us how she sees the world and fashion. And so she is a woman of conviction. She is a woman with a beautiful heart. And so, guys, I'm glad to have her on the platform today. And so today's interview, man, is going to be real good. I promise you that. And so you're going to be able to get in contact with her if you want some work done, because I know, hey, prom season is opening up. Marriage is always opening up. People are starting to get out. And so, hey, if you need a dress, Nikki Blaine is the one. She is called the dress psychologist. So, hey, she's going to bring it out. What you need, what you want, what you desire, the type of coordination that you want, the type of sequence that you want. She is going to bring all of that out of you, because the one thing I do know is this: beauty comes from the inside. And what's on the inside can manifest on the outside. And so, hey, if you need anything, I want you guys to contact Nikki Blaine today. So, guys, we're going to be calling her in a few minutes. So stand by.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing, Miss Blaine?
Hey, how are you doing, Brother Leon?
I'm good. Hey, let me give you some applause.
I love it.
Because I just want to say thank you for saying yes to God. I also want to say thank you for coming on the show today. But also, hey, you live like right in the state where my cousin in Indianapolis. I'm like, man, I got family out that way. So I just want to say thank you for knowing them as well.
Yes, she is my sorority sister. So yes, I have nothing but high regards for her.
Okay, that's good. So hey, I just want to welcome you to the platform, and so I just want to, hey, thank you, because God knows, hey, the more people we get on, the more word goes out, and everybody. I look at it like this: if it's an opportunity for us to have our people of Black excellence on the show, and for them to promote their businesses and promote their wisdom, I'm for that. That's the God knows truth.
Absolutely. And I am the same. So likewise, we touch and agree on that without a doubt.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I want to start with the first question. Who are you? Talk to us.
Yes. So who am I? So my name is Nikki Blaine. And I am a child of God, a mother, a friend, and a dual entrepreneur of Nikki Blaine Couture, and also the Nikki Blaine Learning Center, which I did not tell you about.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, you definitely got to tell us about that.
Well, the Nikki Blaine Learning Center really birthed itself because of COVID. And I created an opportunity for the mothers or the fathers or, struggling parents. They're primarily single family homes, a place where they can drop their kids off and they can continue their e-learning until they feel that it's safe for their children to venture back off into the school system.
Okay.
Because of COVID. It was all because of COVID. It became one of those outlets of, pivoting in the midst of the storm, waiting for that opportunity to connect with something different, because what I was currently doing was no longer working at that point, because Nikki Blaine Couture, I'm making custom clothing for these unique, extraordinary, primarily women, a little bit of men, but primarily women, that go to places and they represent distinction. They are the belle of the balls. They are the leaders. They are the ones that's on the platform. So typically 8 out of 10, my client is representing that. So, COVID put a halt to that. There were no more activities. I mean, it was like, I had 30 prom dresses on my book in March. I had literally just came back from LA. I did Fashion Week, and that night I flew back to Indy. That morning they shut down the city of LA, and I was just like, oh my goodness. And then I'm looking around like, okay, I have all this inventory. I have all these materials. Hopefully this will happen. And it was an extraordinary, amazing, and oh my God, what's going to happen type of process. I had so much work to do, but I didn't know if it was going to, pan out to anything, if my clients still wanted the product. Some of them just made a deposit. Some of them paid half. Some of them paid the whole thing. So I had to continue with making that happen for those particular clients. But the ones that had just literally just maybe put down a $200 deposit was just like, well, now what? Because now prom is not going to happen. Yeah. I mean, you were talking about, we're having this conversation in March. They pushed prom out. Okay, we'll have it in August. And then it ended up not happening, Yeah. So it was just like, well, what is there to do? So I was like, I needed to protect myself, figure out some type of system to make it work. So I had put out on my Facebook, my Nikki Blaine Couture Facebook, that we would honor whatever is on the books a year out from the date that they had originally, made their deposit. So at least that way they know they're good for a year. And to be honest, they're going to be as good for a year as they communicate within a year telling me what their intentions are. Because I understand this is a whirlwind event that has changed a lot of lives, and we've lost a lot of lives in the process. So I just try to make it as easy and customize the experience as much as possible. So that's kind of like one of those pivots that I had to make, and it's been good. And it has opened up a lot of different things for me to think about now, because the community embraced me because I have that loving spirit, and I love children. So they were just like, oh my God, Nikki, that's amazing too. We love you on a whole new level now. So
So did you have like an educational background? Were you ever a teacher?
So interesting enough, right? So my background is this. I have a bachelor's in marketing. I have an associate's in accounting. I'm 2 classes away from computer information systems. I have another bachelor's in visual communications, and I have a master's in entrepreneurship and in human resources. Wow. So with all of those intentions to be a serial entrepreneur.
Okay. I gotta give you some applause on that one. You are making it happen.
Yes.
You are making it happen, because it's like, hey, you got multiple streams of income, and you are giving back to the next generation. So I appreciate all of that. So let me ask you this, because I know I was reading an interview on you, and I know we're going to go into this. So when did you get into fashion? What keeps you motivated even in these COVID times?
So, I was a child with a lot of dreams and aspirations and visions, and I saw myself as a lawyer or a fashion designer, like at the early age of about 8. And there was absolutely not a lawyer in sight, nor was there a fashion designer in sight. I also wanted to be a teacher and a singer. Wow. But for some interesting reason, the fashion stuck with me, and it literally was of nothing around me that inspired me besides looking at my mother get ready for work in the morning. So I have no idea, unless an ancestor came and tapped me on my shoulder. I don't know who it is, but that's the only thing I could possibly think of. But it was definitely something that God had planted in me at an early age, and it just constantly was just swimming in my aura. Now, the funny thing is, like, when you look at me, I'm just a normal chick. I always have this funked out hairdo, everybody always think I am a cosmetologist. And I say, no, I'm a fashion designer. And then they're like, oh, my hair has been orange. Right now I have faux locks. My hair is shaved all the way around except on the top of my head. The faux locks are like 4 different colors. So people are always assuming I am something else, but they definitely recognize that I'm a creative type.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's just, it kind of drove into, I like it. Then when I had the opportunity in 7th and 8th grade, home economics, that they've discontinued in a lot of schools in Indiana. I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, but they have literally kind of like took away clothing and foods. And I'm like, really, people? That's where it birthed for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I was there. I just immediately got it. And was like fixing everybody's mistakes in class. And I'm like, it's catching at the bottom. You don't see that? You don't get that? I'm like, so I asked my mom for a sewing machine. She was like, you better make sure you utilize, mothers back then, they were not into just spending money on, machines just because you think you might be interested in something. So, my mother made it clear to me that I better make sure I utilize her money. So, and I said I would. So I literally, like my friends in class, it was 8 of them, we were making a sweatshirt. And honey, you saw that episode of The Cosby Show.
Oh, yeah.
When Theo had that shirt on. Yeah.
Yeah, you're trap. I saw that.
I was like, people, let me help y'all. So, yeah, I took 8 of them home and fixed them and corrected them for them, which, clearly I was plagiarizing and cheating, all of the above. But in home ec, when I look back and I laugh about it, but I was like, it was just in me then. And then in high school, I wanted to make a fur coat. That was my first project. And my teacher was like, Nikki, that's a little ambitious. You're not going to get it done in time. You'll have to come in early and work on it because there's no way you're going to be able to finish this. So I said, fine, I'll come in early. That's not a problem. And then she was just like, oh, okay. So, I had that tenacity. If I was determined, I was definitely going to get it done at an early age. And then I had my first fashion show during like our activity period, I think my sophomore year in high school. And then I was making prom dresses and alterations for my classmates. And it just kind of continued the wheel just continued to crank. Wow. And then I was also modeling at that point. Mm-hmm. And my mother just was like, okay, she clearly likes this direction. So she kind of just, whatever was out there that was a organization that existed to help foster, my creativity, she pushed me in that. And at that particular time, it was called Shades of Elegance, and it was a nonprofit organization. We met every Sunday, was practicing walking. It was fashion, model competition, designer competition, and then it was a youth designer competition. The very first one I won. I won the youth competition and the designer competition.
Wow.
The same year. And it was just one of those things where I'm just like, this is me. And I felt like nobody could stop me. I had such a fire up under me that was just incredible, right? And I was just like invincible and could no one tell me anything, to the point where, I don't know, I might have developed a sense of arrogance at that point. Mm-hmm. And I realized I had to like tone it down. And it wasn't that, oh, I think I'm all that or anything, but I was just so sure of it that, if you're not a part of it, you need to get out of my way.
Yeah.
So it was very humbling as well, because I was like, okay, there's a lot I still need to learn. Mm-hmm. And I ended up creating my own curriculum once it was approved. But then they were like, okay, Nikki, if this is what you want to do, you need to take these classes as well, which was like art. And I'm like, I don't need to draw, drape, and sew. I'm good. Okay. And they were like, Nikki, if you want this curriculum, these are the classes you need to also take. So that discipline, I realized I needed, because I was a bit of a fireball. You know what I mean? I'm just rolling, and whatever's around might catch on fire with me, So at that point, I realized, okay, there is a process that I needed to respect and follow, because if I don't, I'm going to have a whole lot of shortcomings going forward. Yeah. So, and then it was interesting because I played basketball. I was very athletic, and I had acquired a scholarship to play at Indiana Tech. And I wanted to go to FIT in New York or University of Cincinnati through their DAP program. I was just adamant, fashion.
Okay.
And then in the midst of me doing the research and everything, I was reading about different designers, especially African-American designers. It was like, where are they at? You know, do they not exist? What is going on?
Yeah.
And everybody was basically hitting rock bottom because they just didn't have the business sense. They were not business savvy, no business acumen. They just could not, you know, do the business side of it. And trust and believe, it's definitely a different beast to be creative versus being strategic about whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And when I acquired that degree, they were like, Nikki, at the end of the day, you said you wanted to own your own business. The only way it's going to run successfully if you have business, if you have a business degree or business classes up under your belt. So then I thought about it. I was like, well, yeah, you got a point there, because now that you mention it, I need to know every aspect of business. So, and then that's when I went on that journey of acquiring a little bit of everything in a business arena. So when I am approached and I can have conversations, I can speak to it because, you know, I've done my homework. And then in studying other designers, I realized, especially the strong creative types, they didn't have a clue. And that's why they couldn't survive, because it's the right and the left brain working together. And the average person, they're either using their left or their right, but they're not using their full capacity, their brain 100%. Nobody does. So
yeah.
Once I realized, I started peeling those layers back, and I was like, oh, okay, I have a lot of tools that God is telling me I need to put into my toolbox before I can be who I see myself as.
Wow. You know, it's funny that you would say that, because now you got me thinking, whatever happened to Karlie Kloss? Whatever happened to, you know, the FUBU? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now I'm like, no, go ahead, talk to me.
Well, you know, I mean, everybody has their moment, and there's a wave, you know, and here's the thing, especially with African Americans, when you have the opportunity to put a celebrity with your brand, I mean, it will naturally take off. Yeah. But then, you know, it's all about how you handle your business, how far it will grow, because you can have a great idea. I mean, we see a lot of one and done. The music industry, I mean, you see a lot of one hitter quitters, and it's because they didn't think past the right now. And then whoever is managing your money and how to forecast 5 to 10 years and how to put the money back. You know, we made this money and just blow it all away. No, with fashion, you need to put that right back into the kitty, because, you know, you're already working on the next line.
Yeah.
And that is the truth. Fashion is 6 months ahead of everything, which is why all of a sudden everybody can't find anything now because of this COVID, because it's been shut down for like almost a year. Things have not been moving. You're looking at fashions that was supposed to go out 6 months ago that are just now going out, or they had to discount it to zero, which is also why Anne Klein, for instance, all those stores in ready to go down. They're closing. Wow. I mean, you're talking about over 400 stores. But when you go back to a small African-American designer, is, you know, who was all involved? What made it go away? Why didn't it have the sustainability? First of all, they probably didn't think no farther than that moment. Yeah. And then everybody that is involved have other intentions. Yeah. You know, I mean, when you think about it, I mean, you see who's on Shark Tank now. He has done great with the money that he acquired, and I believe they sold FUBU off. Okay. But it's now like in the discount stores and stuff like that, and you see far in between. Baby fat, you know, it went dead, but now it's getting ready to surface back up. Yeah. I believe her daughters are going to start carrying, you know, that's the legacy I believe she kind of left for them. But I mean, that's what it is. It's who you have behind you. If you are connected to like Louis Vuitton, like Fenty, for instance, Fenty has, in my opinion, has taken Victoria's Secret out of business.
Wow. For real?
Victoria's Secret, those stores are closing.
I didn't know that. No, I didn't know.
Yeah, because here's the thing. If you go on the Fenty website, you see real women on the website. Yeah. You see real women, which is attractive. Yeah. And here's the thing. You cannot continue to do the same thing and think you're going to get the same results all the time. You have to change. Everything is changing. Time is changing. There's no way you can continue to do the same thing and think you're going to always get the same results. You do not continue to win all the time, because everybody is not looking the same anymore.
Yeah.
And you could, and even like Victoria's Secret in their fashion show, that fashion show was, the sought after, and everybody was there wanting to see it. Then all of a sudden, it kind of lost its frill because who's walking it anymore? There's no more supermodels. There's no more that one black model that everybody is rooting for. There's no more, you don't see enough of what you need to see to keep you wanting to watch it. It lost its frill.
Yeah,
it lost its frill. And it's because the intentions were not in the right direction or the right impression of what they were really thinking on a global level. We're just thinking about us, for instance, with Victoria's Secret, not thinking about how the world's changing, how there are fuller women, how we need to really cultivate that market as well. They could have made a line just as sexy for fuller women and would still be open today.
Yeah. Well, now that you're there, let me ask you this. What about Lane Bryant?
Lane Bryant is still there.
Okay. Because at one point I thought they was getting ready to go down, but then it was like they reinvented themselves.
Yeah, that's my whole point. And now it's more appealing. You see, it's more of a diverse situation.
Okay.
In my opinion, the key to really being successful is diversifying yourself. You cannot just be a one-hitter quitter. Now, Lane Bryant started losing their touch when everything was so cookie cutter.
Yeah.
And the colors were very bland and very generic. And then when they started adding a little spice to it, they had a broader color selection. It had an edgier little kick in their design, and it was hippier. It looked like something that someone of a size 8 would actually want to wear, but it's for a size 24.
Mm-hmm.
Then their sales went back up.
Yeah.
But they wanted to do, let's make some moo-moos because these are fuller women. You can't do that. You need to look at them in the same eye as you would see a size 8. But how to make this as a size 24 and they look just as appealing and just as sexy, because it has nothing to do with your shape. It's your attitude, it's what you want. I've had clients that I had to literally add more measuring tape to them, and they walked in here sashaying and was so sexy and confident about themselves. I'm like, go girl, that's what I'm talking about. And it was exciting, and it was only because of her attitude. The size has nothing to do with it.
Wow. I'm glad you said that, because it's always attitude. Attitude controls everything.
It does. It really does.
I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people feel there's so much shaming out here. And
oh my God.
I'm like, man, I am tired. I like that artist Izzo. And I'm man, you go ahead with yourself, girl.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And she's owning it. She is owning it.
Exactly. So let me ask you this. As a designer, what is your vision like? Because it's like, how do you conceptualize and then actually see it all the way through manifestation?
So I think about the person first and foremost, then the place where they're going, and then the geographical location, what would be appropriate for that event.
Yeah. And
then just kind of go from there. So, and then when I'm shopping for fabric, I'll just take a trip, and I'll go to different places, and we'll just purchase fabric, and I touch it, I feel it. It's like a real intimate situation where a girlfriend of mine says that I molest the fabric when I walk through the store touching on it and everything. She was like, it's a whole process that she just didn't believe. And she was amused by it too. And because it's something special to me, I really touch it, feel it, get a sense of where you should be wearing this. And then I'll just purchase however many yards, I want to purchase at that point. But I really envision who it is. And then when my clients walk in, especially if I'm meeting them for the first time, I ask them questions like, describe yourself to me. Where are you going? How do you want to feel? How do you usually feel when you go to these type of events? Is this something special for you right now? But you do know, however you think you might want to feel, you're definitely going to be feeling fabulous. And somebody is going to want to know, where did you get that outfit? Or I didn't do my job. So as long as we're on the same page with that, we're good, and, oh yes, absolutely. That's why I'm here, So it becomes a gratifying experience for both of us, because they feel amazing. I feel accomplished. And then when that event happens, it's just like a glow. Which is why I call myself the psychologist of dress, because I'm asking these questions. I want to feel my clients. I want to feel their energy so I can put that energy into the garment. But sometimes people just want to come to me for the experience. And I was just like, okay, but this is really not your personality. So help me understand, what you want to get out of this, because everything I'm doing, you're really the polar opposite. You really don't want to be seen. You don't really want to be the belle of the ball, but they just want the experience. And I was like, I get that too. So then I was like, just help me understand who you are, because I can still tap into that as well. Because people hear so much, but then they look in my window, they look at my images. Oh, that's not quite my personality. It's okay, because this is just me speaking boldly, but I can pull it back, because once you get to know me, you don't even see me in all this frill, because I'm a minimalist personally. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But my artistry is very bold and outspoken.
Okay, that's great. That's real good. So I mean, you can make it pop. I mean, you can make it pop.
Yeah.
You can take a plain Jane and turn her into a supermodel.
Exactly.
So,
and people are like, "Oh my God, I cannot believe I feel so amazing." And to me, that's really what it's all about, especially if it's a special event. So people typically come to me for weddings, proms. I'm turning 30, 40, 50, 60, 70.
Yeah.
My anniversary. I'm renewing my vows. And speaking of vows, like COVID, I mean, a lot of people fell in love.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people fell in love, because literally, I mean, I have nothing but weddings on my books right now.
Yeah.
So I was thankful for that. But usually I am flooding with prom dresses right now. Mm-hmm. And it has shifted where I'm flooded with weddings. So I'm thankful for that, because last year was just like, who knows what the future holds, Yeah. And being a small entrepreneur in this studio, people are like, how are you surviving?
Yeah.
So, it was definitely something, that's the whole purpose of having a portfolio of multiple degrees. If I needed to, make a pivot and get back into corporate America, I could do that as well, but I was hoping I didn't have to do that. So I was definitely, having my fillers out, engaging everything and managing my money so I can still survive, because a lot of people didn't. A lot of businesses that made a lot more money than Nikki Blaine Couture had to fold, So I'm just thankful that I was able to, weather the storm. I mean, the storm is still going on, but I can definitely see the storm is not as bold as it was last year this time.
Yeah, definitely. Let me ask you this, because I know with weddings, are people coming to you about baby clothes and stuff like that too?
You know what? Yes, I have like christening. I do get those. I get a lot of heirlooms from generations and generations, and they want to restore it. And, it's passed down to 5 generations, but it's so fragile. How can we clean this? Their birthday, their first birthdays. I get little things like that as well. Yes.
Okay. That's great. So, I mean, a lot of weddings. I will probably be thinking about a wedding to myself if COVID last year. I'm like, man, yeah, we get married. Yeah, we make it through next year. We get married, girl.
Amen.
I can imagine.
and that is the truth. Oh, you did ask me a question and I never did answer about if I was a teacher.
Yeah.
And there's a whole situation that I ended up being that teacher. And I had to laugh at myself because, I had shared earlier that I wanted to be a teacher as well. I was asked to be a guest speaker, and at the time it was called Harrison College. And she was like, she would give me an hour and just kind of talk about, it was their fashion merchandising class, and just wanted me to just kind of give them my experience as being a fashion designer, and since I also had a boutique. So in the midst of me having that 1 hour presentation, she was like, you know what, go ahead, take over the whole class. So I was just like, okay, I thought I was just going to be talking for an hour. And the class was a 4-hour block. And they were like, oh my God, yeah, this is amazing. So then I was like, okay, well, I'll just continue talking until you guys go on your break. And then they were like, so then after, so that was 2 hours, and then here's their break. So I'm like, okay, guys, why don't go ahead and leave? And they did not want to take their break because they had so many questions to ask. So then I was like, well, let's just keep on. So next thing you know, I've talked the whole class for 4 hours. And I was just like, are you kidding me? So then she was like, you know what, Nikki, you should think about teaching. I was just like, but I had always said the only way I would do it would be on a collegiate level because I need people to just be well-mannered and sit in their seat. So literally that rolled into, can you substitute teach for me, Nikki? And then it rolled into, you know what, Nikki, I'm getting ready to move to California. I'm going to highly recommend that you take over the program. And next thing you know, they dropped that whole program in my lap and she left.
Wow.
With absolutely no instruction. She was like, you know what? You built Nikki Blaine Couture on your own. I know you can build this curriculum. Do this, and left.
Wow.
Yeah, and I literally taught their program. And then in hindsight, I realized that she knew that the school was in trouble. So she started looking in other directions. Mm-hmm. And then I think it might have been 2 or 3 years later, then the school got into really bad trouble. They sold the school. And then I had sat out for a year because then they discontinued the program. And then I came back teaching the business courses until they literally closed the school down. But it was just one of those things where I was just like, wow, you know, I really enjoyed that and didn't even realize that was definitely something in my spirit, that I am definitely a teacher now. And I also have like interns at my shop, and I'm always fostering young people, even as early as 10 years old that wants to learn how to sew. I'm like, hey, grab a chair, bring your sewing machine. Yeah. We're about to make this happen. Yeah. So I do that too. And I know I kind of went on a tangent and neglected to answer that question, but
that's
yes,
all right.
I am a teacher. Yeah.
That's all right. Let me give you some applause.
Thanks.
Wow. So, I mean, you just encompass the whole thing, the whole shebang. I mean, you know, you show people, you know, how to create it, how to market it. So let me ask you this. Has there been any problem with distribution?
You know, for me, I would say yes, because I get so wrapped up in custom that it's hard to just be like, okay, these 6 pieces I'm getting ready to produce and send them off. And I had said as of this year, I'm getting ready to stop being so consumed, I guess after this wedding season, that I'm really going to sit down and have a serious breakdown of how to just distribute it, because I'm not being the best me if I'm constantly the creator when I can see so much more. I can see it on a broader scale. And I have resources to pull. I know how to pull everything. I just need the manpower to make it happen and have people that I can trust and understand the vision. Because, you know, that's what's really hard. You have a great idea, but if you do not have the right people in place, man, it just will not manifest the way it needs to manifest. And, you know, the interesting thing is, sewing is almost like a dying craft in a sense, because fast fashion has just put a whole ugly spin on fashion. People think everything is supposed to be $2, and they just don't appreciate the craftsmanship when somebody is literally making it by hand. When you can go to H&M or, you know, Forever 21, and, you know, I mean, you can run to the sales rack. You know, it's just a whole different perspective from fashion. I mean, from custom clothing to buying at a storefront or in the mall.
Exactly. Because the sizes are not even the sizes anymore. Really, it's like,
oh my God, yeah, exactly. And either you were inherited or you bought it. The shapes have totally evolved. Yeah. You know, it's like, and even, I mean, fashion is not even considering that. I mean, people are making sure that they're top heavy and bottom heavy, and the clothes don't reflect that. They're just a standard cut. I mean, I have more, and that's really where I come into play, because people are like, even these prom dresses. I had a prom client walk in today. She was like, I can't find the dress to fit because my back is so wide. And she's an athlete. She plays basketball. I mean, she plays volleyball. She's really tall, statuesque. It has broad shoulders. And of course I get that because I'm that same person. I played basketball. So I know an athlete, a female, I mean, you just naturally acquire broader shoulders because you're an athlete. And I was like, I can definitely make this fit for you. You know, you'll just need to get a little, you know, some inserts. And I explained where they would go, and we can still make this happen, you know. you can't just go to the store and think that's just going to happen unless they have that service.
Yeah.
And the only ones that really have that service is, your more higher end upscale anchor stores like your Macy's or Nordstrom's or Neiman Marcus or something like that. They are the ones that would have that service, but not every store has that service. But unfortunately, these clothes are not made for somebody that has a wider back, a small waist, curvier hips. Those things just don't really necessarily exist unless they say this is for a curvier woman, this is for a curvier body type, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, because if you walk in the average store, it's like, okay, extra small, extra large. And a lot of times it's like, man, please. And then that whole one size fit all, please, y'all better go somewhere with
exactly. that. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And I have the hardest time because my shoulders are so broad. And then at the bottom, I'm like so much smaller, I was like, I have to take in my own clothes. And then let's not even mention if you're petite, so yeah. It's just, I find it very interesting, the measuring system that they use. It's hilarious to me. And then when you shop online, you're nervous because you're like, okay, is this true to size? What exactly does this mean? These numbers? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother story.
Yeah. Cause I've had, I was like, okay, if this is coming from China, let me make sure I get the biggest one they got.
Exactly. That's literally how you have to think about it. And then what is their biggest one, Yeah. You have to have that conversation with them.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay, if it's coming from China, let me get the biggest one. Because I've been like at some of these gas stations, they sell T-shirts, and I'm like, that is not no 4XL. Like, it's just a 4XL.
Now I know exactly what you're talking about because I was making as a little holiday promo means of making extra cash. I would make a customary mask and then I would have a matching T-shirt and I had like Nikki Blaine Couture embroidered on it, right?
Yeah.
So this one particular lady was like, I'm like a 5X, blah, blah, blah. So I was thinking, that was my thought. Ooh, they have those T-shirts. They have those T-shirts at the gas station. Let me buy one of them. I opened it up and was like, what's this? I'm like, let me go to another one. So, yeah, you have to look at it. Even though it says one size, you really have to look at it to see, does this really make sense? Is this really the size or not?
Yeah, because now I started from that. I was like, okay, let me look at the cut. Because if it's cut wrong, it's not going to fit on me. I'm like, nah.
Exactly.
So explain that to us. I mean, how does sizing and cut work?
Well, okay. So, for instance, a European cut, that is definitely more of it's a tailored fit. And when someone says it's a tailored, it is a European cut. It's tailored to fit. Whereas Americans, we like a relaxed fit.
Yeah. So
sometimes their fit is a fit that looks too small for us, but that's literally their fit. As you notice, like the pants that are flooding now, they're fitted. The skinny pants, they're flooding. That's a European cut and fit. That is intentional. Whereas we're like, okay, our relaxed regular fit is definitely more of, is at our ankles or slightly past our ankles. It's not really skin tight unless they're skinny jeans, but we have more of a relaxed fit. And you have to take the measurements that go across your chest and your waist, your back across your shoulders. You got to take the length of your arm. And at that point is your preference of how you want it to fit. We are more relaxed. You think about your jackets. There, you got your bolero, you got your regular fit that pretty much stops at your waist. You got your 3/4 that stops just below your bottom. There's so many different fits out there. It's just really your personal preference of how you want it to fit in terms of how it molds to your body and where you want it to stop.
Okay. That you definitely opening up my eyes with that. So let me ask you this, because I know, fashion has changed over the years. Have you seen anything that was like, they called it old school, but now it's starting to make a return and everything? Because I look at, some of the stuff from the 70s and
Yeah.
with the skinny jeans and the wide bottoms, it seemed like, even with the halter tops, some of that stuff is starting to come back. And then, it came back for a little bit and then it stopped. And then somebody, bringing it out, making it famous all over again. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And the funny thing is, going back to my childhood, my mother was wearing platforms and she had them in the closet. And they were like way back in the closet. I was like, why do you have these in your closet still? No one is ever going to wear these again, ever. I do mean ever. She was like, Nikki, fashion. She said, fashion evolves. She was like, it's going to eventually come back again. I said, no, it won't. This will never come back again. So in high school, I'm like, oh, I need to get a pair of these. And my mother was like, I know those are not platforms. Those exact same shoes you told me when you was a kid that they would never come back. So, yeah, it is a cycle. I would say right now we're kind of in that 80s vibe.
Yeah.
The 80s, 90s vibe right now. But the wide legs are making a comeback. So wide leg pants and the bell bottoms. What I'm seeing a lot of now is a mix of the eras. It's not just one solid era that's really, really strong at this moment. They're doing like a mix. So you may see the fitted leg with the wide bell bottom at the bottom, or you may see a wide leg pant and that's it. Or you may see short shorts, or you may see the mini skirts. And for instance, something that I anticipate trending. So I am anticipating short wedding gowns to start trending. And when I say short, I mean like at the knee short.
Wow. You know what? I seen somebody with something like that too. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. I ain't never seen nothing like that.
No. Trust me, it totally makes sense. And this is why I say it makes sense. One is because we have been in this economic turmoil in the fashion industry. So we have to think smarter. And to get the same type of return as we were getting prior to COVID, we cannot use the same amount of resources that we had used in the past because that costs. So what would make the most sense is to use less fabric, maintain maybe the same price point, or it could be a little cheaper, but you've used less fabric. Therefore, you've already cut the cost in the raw materials down, which can create a wider profit margin. So that's just me making that assessment with the wedding, within the wedding gowns.
Yeah, and then I'm like,
and I could be shooting in the dark, but it makes sense to me.
No, because I feel as though that with that, not only do you have a dress, but you also got a party dress. You ain't got to take your wedding gown off.
And let me tell you something. Now, I'm actually literally working on this destination wedding right now where she has a dress that she's taking her pictures in. She has a dress that she's walking down the aisle in. She has a dress that she's wearing at the reception.
Wow. And
guess what? We have not spent, now she also works with me, but we have not spent $1,000 yet.
Oh my God.
And let me tell you something. Yeah. Right. And let me tell you something. Now, her best friend is getting married the following month, and she's getting married June 1st. My assistant is getting married May 1st. Her friend went and bought a gown that cost $3,000, just one gown. That's it. Wow. And we are doing this whole transition of outfits, and we haven't even reached 100 yet. Over $1,000 yet. And we're talking about two of the dresses are already they've already been made because we've repurposed, we went shopping, we're just adding and building. Now the third dress is one that I'm literally putting my hands on. So within the raw materials, we're still coming out ahead. I'm not factoring in how much it will cost me to make it in terms of my time, but in terms of the finish, the raw materials needed, we're already just at $1,000, and we're talking about the third look.
Wow, that's great. So you actually can show somebody how to save something.
Exactly.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: Are you featured in any wedding magazines?
You know what? No, not yet. I really realized as of 2021 that I wanted to focus in that industry more so than just all of the above. Because, in terms of, I am in Indiana, and most people are not even, they barely see it on the map unless it's time for the Pacers or the Colts or the Indy 500. It's just not a sought after city. So in making a name for myself, I've had to be creative and constantly pivot, So it's kind of like, okay, that's what's hot right now. Make a pivot because in Indiana, outside of the Colts, the Pacers, and the Indy 500, anyone in Indianapolis is really sought after. So I've had to constantly pivot. Yeah, so in making that pivot, I had to constantly reinvent myself from whatever the demand was locally in Indiana. And then whenever I had the opportunity to do different things in other states, like the fashion weeks and the other shows, and then other clients were seeking out my designs for whatever the event would be, that's kind of like what I was doing. So I've always been busy doing other things. And that's a perfect example of, if you're a visionary, you have to find people to help, build your dream, because I can't be a dreamer and I'm the worker as well, because it will only go so far. And if I have another dream, that other dream is just sitting there waiting for me to birth it, but I can't birth that one because I'm still caught up on this one. And that's kind of like where I've been. I've been in this tug of war of finding the right talent so I can walk away from this one just a little bit, so I can go over here and create this situation, so then they can all kind of work together, because I have like 5 lines that I'm thinking about.
Okay.
And within those 5 different lines, they're all completely different.
Yeah.
So, and I know they can happen, because within my different clients that I have, making these custom orders, people are wanting certain things, and I can literally put these people, okay, X, Y, and Z will like this, B, F, and E will like this, and then Z, 4, and 7 like this. And I'm like, okay, literally, I have like 4 different markets that I'm pretty much cultivating in my design house. But then when I put images out there, it's primarily like one look, because I don't want to look like I'm all over the place.
Okay.
But being in a smaller demographics, and no one is really seeking out fashion in Indianapolis or in Zionsville, it's like, how do you make yourself survive in this situation? Because that's the number one question that people always ask me. How? You have your own namesake? You have your own storefront? Everybody, even when I went to Paris for Paris Week, Paris Fashion Week, they were shocked. They were like, wait a minute, you have your own building? They're like, wait a minute, how did you do that? You know what I mean? So yeah. I find it interesting to hear people say that, because, when I show up, I can represent. I mean, I'm not somebody that's trying to figure this out. I have a great formula. It's just having the right pieces in place, the right resources. Like I said, you got to plan 6 months in advance. And it's all about the timing and being persistent.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And you got to find somebody that has, the like passion.
Exactly.
Because if you got somebody that's, willy-nilly and dragging their feet, I'm like, nah, sorry, I can't fool with you. You're going to cost me some money.
Exactly. And unfortunately, that has happened within finding help. It's kind of like their name is not on it, so it is what it is. I mean, you can't win them all. No, you can't tell me I cannot win them all.
Yeah, exactly.
I position myself to win.
Yeah.
So if you feel like I can take an L, the L is you walking out the door.
Oh yeah, exactly. Sorry.
You don't tell me I can afford to take an L. I will be the one that says that, not you.
Exactly. Sorry,
boo-boo. You about to get the whole sister coming out.
Exactly. Sorry, boo-boo. You got to go.
Right. Not today. Not on this watch.
Exactly. So, hey, I want to change it up a little bit. You were saying that you were AKA. So what's that experience like? How did that help you?
Well, so here's the thing. We literally chartered our chapter. So I am the founder of our chapter, which is Rho Lambda 1995 at Indiana Institute of Technology in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So it was definitely a different experience of having to do the paperwork and to be certified an official sorority under the Alpha Kappa Alpha organization. Now, I will say the sisterhood is phenomenal. We believe in servicing the community. It's about giving back, supporting, building, and empowering and educating. I mean, we are about what you see. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We have ongoing fundraisers. I mean, I literally, me and my little team, we made 206 African dresses that we sent to Africa a couple of years ago as one of our community service projects. And I literally, for one thing, it was in the middle of summer. I mean, I have a lot going on. I really don't need to be giving back at this time. You know what I'm saying? But I was like, you know what? This is important because these people need this. And I feel like you are doing a disservice to yourself if you have a talent and you don't at least give it away at some point with a cause of purpose or just to help the next person. So to me, it was a no-brainer when they reached out. I was like, Nikki, can you help us with this? Of course. What's the goal? Well, the goal was 500. So in my mind, my goal was 250. Okay. Because that's just how I like to give. But yeah, we're about giving. Networking is solid. Protecting, building each other up. Like when I went to Paris, you know, and that was my first time going to Paris Fashion Week. Had never been to Paris before. And the sisters called me and they all prayed for me. And I mean, we do everything. There's no thing that we don't do for each other or for people that may need help. So I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the sisterhood. Wow. But I'm also solid without the sisterhood. You know what I'm saying? This is me outside of AKA. Okay. AKA doesn't make me. We help each other be great.
Okay, that's great. Let me give you some applause. So I got to ask this. How do you feel? How did you feel about our vice president? Because, I mean, that inauguration, you know, to see former lady Michelle Obama and the vice president, and then, you know, the young lady that did the poetry. And I'm like, man, the colors was popping that day.
They were. And you know what I loved about it so much? It was a high level of minimalism in terms of fashion, but it was so bold and striking, and it made such a powerful statement. And it just goes to show you don't have to have a whole lot of extra to be seen. Yeah. It's your attitude at the end of the day. Every single one of those women walked in with confidence that was just oozing out of them. Yeah. And it just empowered the whole look. And the funny thing is, I'm like, hey, everybody is wearing my outfit. I was like, did they call and my friend gave them my secret? Because I was like, oh my God, everybody is wearing exactly what I would wear. And then when I say I'm a minimalist, and that's how I would show up, literally, each one of those outfits, I approve. I would wear each one of those outfits because that was the time. It was time for something to be worn like that. Yeah. You know, let's get rid of all this frill and fake news and all this other extra, read all about foolishness, nonsense. To be honest, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to make a point, and we're going to stand firm and speak boldly. Yeah. And that's exactly what those looks emulated without saying a single word, in my opinion.
Yeah. I got to give you some applause. So you know, I love the fact because you're pretty much saying that it's all about attitude. You know,
it is.
And a lot of times some people feel as though I got to show it all. Let me make sure all this cleavage is out. I'm like, you don't have to do all that.
Oh, but you know what? I mean, that shows an attitude too.
Okay.
But they don't think they really understand the attitude that is showing.
Okay. So, hey, break it down for us.
So it's very suggestive, and it says I can be bought because I'm selling something to you. That's why I said it's suggestive. Okay. And nothing is really wrong with that if that's what you're comfortable with. You know what I'm saying? Because it definitely takes a special type of character to be comfortable with exposing yourself like that. I mean, it's a time and a place for everything. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. But just like I said, it's a time and a place for everything. People look at you a different kind of way, you know, because people are, for one thing, your opinion is free, and people are always going to give your opinion. People will feel that's inappropriate for X, Y, and Z. And to be honest, I mean, you don't see anybody at the inaugural ball with their breast out. Yeah. I mean, you know, at the inauguration, you know, you're not going to see that. Yeah. Because that's not the time or the place to be dressed and looking like that. Yeah. And Lady Gaga, for instance, I mean, you know, she showed up in raw meat before, but she knew She knew she better not show up in that raw meat outfit that day.
Yeah, exactly.
It would not have been appropriate. So that's why I'm like, it has attitude too, and a time and a place for it as well, and that was not.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, yo, there's a difference between the White House inauguration and the Grammys.
Yeah.
So I just look at it like, okay, like you just said, time and a place for everything. I get the whole thing with the branding and everything like that. So I can't help but ask this. How do you feel about, certain gospel artists like Erica Campbell and Yolanda Adams and some of them feeling like, I remember the scandal with Erica Campbell and her tight dress. I was like, man, she just trying to sell that brand. I'm like, man, come on, let it go.
That's the thing that really tickles me the most is that people will hold, if you say praise the Lord or hallelujah one too many times, they will hold you to the cross like your name is Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And but what I will also say is, I think, and like I said, this is just my opinion, that you do have to be a little more mindful because you are held to a higher accountability. Of course, you are not the Lord Jesus, you are who you are, but also you have to be mindful of how people will see and perceive you. So, I'm not opposed to somebody wearing, if you have a shape, you're shapely, and that's just it. Now, there is a way you can wear things where it's not as tight and you can still see your shape. And I think that probably would have helped the situation some if it was not as tight. I didn't personally have a problem with it, but I can see how people can have a problem with it because, you have those people where all they can wear is skirts. You can't show your clavicle.
Yeah.
Your back can't be out.
Yeah.
So, when you are amongst these people, you have to be mindful and respectful of those people as well. Yeah. And that's what it is. Because, and some of them, they say you can't wear makeup or anything like that too. And for me, in my opinion, if you're going into an arena and these people are there and they think like that, then I think you should probably wear just foundation, mascara, and some lip gloss, just to show yourself friendly. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Because you gotta be able to play the game. Because there's a whole nother politic going on in the gospel industry too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's no exception.
Oh yeah.
So you have to learn how to play the game.
Yeah.
You have to acquire the respect across the board, and that's how you will, and that's how you can, because I respect that, and I will make sure, I compliment the situation and not draw attention to me.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's one of the reasons why everybody loves CeCe Winans.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I agree.
She can cross over, go to anybody's church.
And we'll be blowing all the way from hometown.
Yeah.
Now, and I think back, who really kind of, I always have a question mark when I see her a little bit is Juanita Bynum.
Yeah.
Because she is very flashy to me, outside of when she has on her cloth and when she's preaching. Yeah. But I'm like, man, she doesn't even look like a minister sometimes. and I just be like, oh, okay, I wonder how the saints feel about that. You know what I mean? Yeah. But she's always covered, but she's just she's fashionable. And I always wonder, do people distort that because she's so fashionable? Yeah. And I know even Yolanda has had issues, where people thought, that she looks a little too secular for the Lord.
What is too secular for the Lord? Oh, I'm serious. What is that?
I tell you, they want you to have on your bacon mittens, and I mean, you can't do anything that remotely look like you might be doing a little too much.
Yeah.
It's just funny, and I will say, when you are in the public eye and of the gospel, the Christian world, I just think you just have to be mindful of the different religions and the different cultures, and just make sure you are mindful and respectful of them, even though if it's not your religion. But this song crosses over,
Yeah.
to the multitudes of what's out there. I just think you have to just be mindful and respectful, so you can be receiving. Because in doing that, it's nothing. It's just going to bring more blessings to you.
Yeah.
Now, outside of that, you enjoying a night on the town with your significant other. You can do you and be you. But in the back of your mind, you should always be like, and recognizing, because of who I am, it's no different from being the president of the United States. Because of who I am, I have to be mindful of the perception of others in everything that I do.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was just thinking during this conversation that even in certain churches and even certain venues, you couldn't even wear a pantsuit.
Exactly right.
And the crazy thing about it is like, wow. So, the dress can't be too tight. It can't be too flashy. You can't wear it can't be too short. You can't wear a pantsuit because there's a denomination that feels as though you shouldn't wear pants.
Right.
And then you can't have on too much jewelry or even jewelry at all.
Exactly. So, and the congregation, I go to a nonprofit church in Indianapolis, Truth in Christ, and it's a very, very small church. And when I say I can show up in my jeans and a sweatshirt on Sunday and nobody is looking at me, well, they might be like, Nikki, I can't believe you got that on, but there is not unusual because somebody else may have that on. That's how comfortable and laid back it is, because at the end of the day, it is written for you to come as you are.
Yeah.
And it's a hospital at the end of the day. So somebody may not have it. Somebody may not be able to afford it, but God has touched their spirit to walk in. So you need to receive, help cultivate them, give them a word. Hopefully it changed their life, change their look, change their being. Yeah. And then they will act accordingly of whatever it is that they're moved to do.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, I got to give you some applause. Seriously. So let me ask you this. Do you have any like celebrity clientele?
You know what? I've been to LA a couple of times for like the Emmys, the Oscars and the MTV Awards, and I've connected with different clients and have sent things to be worn on the red carpet and whatnot, and some B-listers. But one that's not so much a B-list, like Niecy Nash, for instance. She's definitely one that I have sent some things to and have pictures of her and everything. So yes, I have. And then I realized I try not to, and I know that's kind of like a gateway of, woo, you've arrived. But I really was like, I just wanted to be great and just build everyone up and not really focus on the celebrity end of it, because that used to be my focus.
Yeah.
And then it was like when I really got into it and learned the industry and kind of learned how it worked, you can go broke.
Yeah. Especially sending out stuff, So yeah, I totally see it now. So what part of the year is the most demanding? Because I would imagine maybe around Christmas.
To be honest, and it's funny that you said that, the most demanding time for me is right now. Wow. Typically, it kicks off at March till September, and then that's when it dies down. Then it picks back up for galas for December. But December used to be the driest month for me because no one is really looking for something custom. They're looking for deals because they got to buy 20 other gifts.
Yeah.
So what I've learned to do, I had to pivot.
Okay.
And I turned my 1-year annual sale which I used to do like right around May. I moved it to December, and I decided to have a holiday sale.
Okay.
So then that's when I was able to make a lot of money in December, because I'm slashing prices and I'm doing things that people have never seen on sale before in Nikki Blaine Couture, so they can eat it up. And I try to have it either week 1 or week 2 of December. And that has been very fruitful for me. But for the most part, it is the prom season, but like I said, it's more of a wedding season now for me.
Okay.
Because, they just made an announcement, a week or two ago that the schools are going to have prom because they're literally opening up the school systems as of April 5th that they can go 100% full time now if they like.
Yeah. And I'm starting to see that change because I just recently got vaccinated. And what I started to see in the vaccination, so I'm like, man, you got teenage kids in here. So
right.
Yeah, the schools are opening. Kids are getting vaccinated. They coming with their families and stuff. And I'm like, wow. So, sports are started. So, hey, you got to have graduation and prom.
Exactly.
So I'm thinking, they'll probably end up having, like, if you were supposed to have a prom last year and you didn't, you might end up having
and they did not. Yeah, they did not have proms last year. But I know, like, some of my clients that had already paid for their dresses, they decided to maybe have a little dinner at their friend's house, and maybe 5 of them had dinner together, or they might have went out to eat. It was just more so things that they had invented for themselves to do than to have something. The school wasn't doing anything.
Yeah, exactly. Because I know my son, he graduated, did the whole graduation thing, but he never had a prom. So
yeah. Now, when did he have his graduation? Was it literally at the appropriate time, or was it like months later?
It was we ended up having his graduation was like maybe about a few months later. They did like a virtual, and it was in control. They had about X amount of people at certain times. It was certain windows, and they had it outside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's
I know here we had drive-through drive-through graduations where they were literally just walking past, shaking hands or waving and toot toot. And that was the graduation experience. I mean, it was pretty interesting and creative on the school's part of how they still kind of had a graduation. Some of them literally walked across and took a picture. It was more of a photo op. No one was in the auditorium. They just walked and handed them their diploma, and it was literally just a photo op. So it was interesting to hear the different scenarios of how people were graduating.
Yeah. So I look at it. Yeah, I'm definitely. I'm like, if I see some prom pictures in our newspaper, I will be excited. I'm like, I know my son's not in it, but I'm just glad to see a little sense of normalcy, come back.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, and how did you, or let me ask you this. How is it a person starting off in fashion? How can they safeguard themselves? Because I know a lot of people, they say, yo, man, they stole my idea, da-da-da-da-da. How can you safeguard yourself from stuff like that?
You know what? The funny thing is, you just have to continue to be creative, because if you think this one thing is just going to save you, it's not, because there's already somebody, all they did was add a tag to it, and now they have ownership because theirs have a tag and yours do not. So you just have to constantly recreate yourself. And it's such a long process to even try to say, hey, this person stole my ideas. I mean, things just have to be documented, and it's just really impossible. You really have to have a lot of money. And when you think about it, what brand do you know, especially if they have a logo, what logo brand do you know appears to be safeguarded because no one has made a knockoff of it?
They make knockoffs off of everybody.
Everything. Do you hear me? You can purchase different logos. And I know this for a fact because we had purchased Gucci so I could make these Gucci masks for this one funeral. And we literally embroidered the Gucci symbol and Gucci underneath it, to the point where someone had tagged and flagged me on Instagram for copyright infringement. And I was like, understand the business before you just flag somebody. I'm like, this was purchased.
Oh my God.
And it was a custom order. It's not like it's on my website saying, hey, buy these like they are on everybody else's.
Yeah.
This is a custom order in memory of. You can clearly see all that. And you can literally buy fabric that is Gucci, Givenchy.
Wow. I didn't know that.
I mean, yeah. And I mean, the logo is all over the entire fabric.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know
Chanel. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the funny part, because I was just like, you know what? Just Google Chanel fabric. Just Google Gucci fabric. You know?
Yeah.
That's what I tell people.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's because that's not their realm. That's not what they do. It will look like, oh my gosh, she is straight copied. You know what I mean? But I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that designer.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll never walk in and I'm going to have a whole situation of Gucci in the store, because I would be mad if somebody had a whole Nikki Blaine.
Like, I'm going to turn this whole display down.
Right. You do unto others if you have them do unto you.
Yeah.
And I know better. I don't want it done to me, so I'm not going to do it to someone else.
Yeah. So, thank you for bringing that out, because I'm not going to lie. I've gone to farmers markets, and I'm like, I cannot believe they selling all this type of bootleg and knockoff stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, you got women buying them like they authentic. What? You know that's a knockoff.
Exactly. Because you know what? When you really spent that kind of money, you look like you spent that kind of money.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind you didn't spend that money.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. I remember the first time I bought a Coach, I had to work overtime to get my wife that Coach bag.
Right. And I'm sure that bag is still put up and well kept. I'm
going to be honest. No, my wife broke the strap on it.
Oh, look, well, now she can take it back, and they will. Well, I know they used to be very good on their craftsmanship, and that you can return it and everything.
Yeah.
But you know what I find funny? That different brands are kind of off brands to other geographic locations.
Yeah.
So I was, you think you're really flossing and, look at me. I'm wearing my, X, Y, and Z. And then you on the West or East Coast, they looked at you like, that was last year's stuff. You are dated, and I can tell you're from the Midwest.
Oh, yeah. Because I never caught up, I never keep in contact. I never, look at that. I'm like, okay, we got a Coach bag, and then she got another bag. I'm like, hey, hold up. I feel like you cheating on Coach.
Right. You said you brand loyal. Yeah.
So I just look at it like, all right, whatever works. And the crazy thing was, I'm like, she bought that other bag and she only wore it like once. I was like, well, when you gonna wear it? Oh, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting on a special occasion.
Right.
And that bag been in the closet for probably 3 years now.
Well, Brother Leon, you're gonna have to do a little better.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna have to do a little bit better. I'm definitely gonna have to do a little bit better, because I look at it like, wow, that's, and then I'm thinking to myself like, okay, this is one set color. I was like, well, how come you just don't get this? Because then you can wear this with all types of stuff. But it's like, nah, I want it to be gold. And I'm like,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Well, women like to match.
Yeah,
I will say that.
Yeah. So,
and if it's not more of an everyday bag, she can't just wear it every day.
Oh yeah, no, it wasn't an everyday bag. But I think the one thing that I will say with those big bags, when I bought that big bag, that's when my wife started having shoulder problems.
Oh yeah. You know what? Now I am one that I use that wallet cell phone is my purse. And now I have 2 phones. So now I have this little satchel that's really more of a unisex over the crossbody bag.
Yeah.
That, all you can get is your cell phones and your wallet and your keys, because you will get caught up in that, especially women.
Oh, yeah.
You have those big old bags, and you just feel like you just got to have one of those bags.
Yeah.
Because it looks great. But next thing you know, you just have too much.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, what I don't want to do is carry my stress with me. Yeah. Because there's no way you need everything in that bag.
Yo, it's funny you would say that. Because I'm like, my wife's bag was like, you could just go in there and get anything. I was like, what you doing with mouthwash?
My whole point. Now that right there, that could be in the little traveling kit that is in your trunk. You don't need to have that in your purse.
Yeah. Like, I mean, she had toothpaste, mouthwash.
I get it.
I mean, deodorant. I'm like, what is this, like an overnight bag or something?
Right.
And every time she would say, hey, go in my purse, I'm like, I'm not going in there. I'm not going in there. I'm sorry. I'm not going in that purse. Because you know you're not going to find what she wants. Exactly.
And that's going to be a whole situation.
Exactly. And I remember the times when she had that bag, it would take her like 5-10 minutes just to find her keys.
And that's when I said, I'm going to do better. That's when I said, I'm going to do better, because that's exactly what it'd be. I can't find what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. And I used to be like, how'd you lose your keys?
But I will say this. I do have a whole bag in my car.
Yeah.
There's a whole shopping bag of random miscellaneous things, and even my laptop that I'll keep in the car because there's other things that I need, but I don't need to walk into every place with it. Okay.
I totally get that. I totally get that. Because I keep a book bag. I keep a book bag with all of my stuff that I'm going to need for COVID. Because now it's like, if you got hand wipes and sanitizer, that stuff is like gold. I'm like, I'm not leaving that around. I'm going to keep it in a bag, in the car. I'm just not going to leave it in any old type of place. So I totally get it. So, hey, tell me about your building. How'd you come across your building and you turned it into a boutique?
So, it was it's interesting. He's a whole nother story, but he had a bridal shop in this building, and the building at the time was a 4-unit.
Okay.
And he was like, Nikki, I heard you was looking for a place, because, I was working out of my home, and it was just getting to the point where too many people was just walking through my home because I had converted my loft into my business. So I was like, I needed to start looking for a place. So he was like, oh, it's a perfect spot right above me, blah, 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 and all this other stuff. So I said, okay. He had asked me to model in this bridal show for him. He said, and then that's a way you can look and see if you like this space. Well, walked in it, loved it. It was like, oh my goodness. And then he was like, I told the landlord all about you. She's so excited. She wants you to give her a call. I thought he was just being funny. So she literally reached out to me and was like, yeah, I hope I'm not overstepping, but, he said you blah, 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 and I've read up about on you, and I think you would be awesome. I'm more than happy to show you the space. And I was just like, oh, my God. So I'm like, maybe this is God telling me to do it, So, what's so funny? I'm getting ready to have dinner with her, which is amazing, that this conversation is about to be full circle. Mm-hmm. So I went ahead and said, okay. Was nervous because I was already looking at this other space that was for creative, very inexpensive. So I was definitely going to take that spot. But then I was like, ooh, that'll be my workspace. And then over here will be my boutique. I just need a partner, I thought. Woo-wee. When I tell you, God taught me a lesson.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and signed the lease, excited. One of my clients at the time was like, I had dropped off a garment and told her, I'm ready to go check out this spot. She was like, oh, well, how much is it? Maybe we can partner up. So then I'm like, listen, no brainer at this point. I got a partner. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. So the landlord was like, she wanted to meet the lady and just let you know who's, in the building and whatnot. She didn't like the energy of the partner. So she said, you know what, Nikki? You guys can decide whatever you want to decide, but I only want one name on the lease, and that one name can only be yours. Now, you can have another subcontract between her, but I am giving this building because of you and because I believe in you. She said, so it could be month to month, or it could be 1 year. I don't want to commit you to something and you go in debt because I know this is a new adventure and blah, 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 and so forth. So I was happy that, she was willing to work with me like that.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I was like, is she telling me something?
Yeah.
So literally 4 months later, he walked away from me, and I had to be responsible for this location and for the location that I had downtown.
Wow. So
it was a lesson learned because God was then telling me, you don't lean on anybody but me. Mm-hmm. And I understood that at that point because he was like, this is yours. You're going to keep it. It's going to be a little rough, but I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And that was a valuable lesson learned. So, yeah. So I was upstairs for 3 years. And here's the thing now. She tells me this. She was like, if you're late, you'll just have to pay the late fee, but I'll work with you, So
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So when I told her that he walked away, she was like, oh, wow, Nikki. I felt that in my spirit. That's why I put it out there like I did. So, but to rewind the tape, she literally was like, well, Nikki, I'm not just going to sign a 1-year lease. Let's sign a 3-year lease because it doesn't make any sense for me to invest in all this. And then, we're just going to be there for a year. Oh, okay. So I signed a 3-year lease.
Wow.
But so she walks away 4 months later. And to be honest, I just stopped asking for the money because I was like, I just cannot continue to ask every month. And apparently she was going through some things.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was. And then it was, oh my goodness. To make a long story short, FBI type stuff going on with them. And I was just glad that there was definitely a separation.
Okay.
Because that was nothing but God saying, you know what, I'm going to pull you from this right now because there's something that's really about to affect them and I don't want you a part of that.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, yeah. So it was a rough blessing in disguise,
yeah.
But I was so thankful
yeah.
that happened because I would have been wrapped into that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wasn't about any of that. So,
yeah.
So that's how I ended up in that space. And then, what was it, less than 6 months, she tells me, the building's up for sale.
Wow.
Right. So now I'm like, what do you mean the building's up for sale? So now there's a whole new landlord that I'm going to have to deal with. That I don't know if this person is going to be friendly or nice as, forgiving as she is. And she said, no, Nikki, I really believe that he'll be able to take better care of you than I was able to because I was really in a situation where, I had to have tough luck. And I was just like, oh, okay, whatever that means. And mind you, I'm in an area where it was 2% African-American people that lived in the little silly city village. Yeah. They call it a village. So I was already like, I don't know how favorable this is going to be because, you never know. Because I was skeptical to even be in the building because, I'm just this black girl coming into this world that is predominantly white, and people tend to kind of stick to their own. It's kind of like one of those situations where if you live here, we'll support you, but if you don't really live here, then we kind of look at you and you have to warm up to us. So we have to see if you're worth supporting. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Kind of like, well, after we watch you about 5 years, okay, yeah, this is a legitimate business. Now we'll support you. You know what I mean? It's kind of like how that we're just kind of watch you from a distance.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then they just learned, okay, yeah, she's about the business. So it's been fine, but it was very, very scary on so many levels. But the price was right, and this is a very elite area. I mean, I can't believe how much these houses cost that are like. Put it like this: there was this 900 square foot house, and it was like $175,000. And in Indiana, that's just what, I mean, of course, I say that, and we're or something like that. It's like, well, that's how much mine is, but it just that's a little
900 square foot. Yeah, but it's 900 square feet.
Yeah. So, I
mean, you can spit from the front door and get to the back.
Exactly. So a very, very small space, and it's very pricey. So yeah, it's a lot of professionals and CEOs live in the area and everything. So I knew it was a good fit in terms of my fashions and what I represent. I just didn't know how, unfortunately, you have to be mindful of, race and ethnicity because racism doesn't exist. But when the new landlord came, he was just as lovable as she is, just like she said, and it's just been a favorable situation, and it's nothing but God. And I was just like, and he was like, oh, we're a family, and I mean, and I've been there. I'm the tenant that's been there the longest in the building.
Okay.
So it's been a blessing, and God has really shown me some things, and to just hold on to my faith and continue to lean and believe and have faith. I mean, when I say have faith, that's not a game. That's a strong word. And if you can hold on and believe in that word, you can do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Let me give you some applause. So I'm coming up on my final questions. How important is good reputation and word of mouth?
Woo! I would honestly say, I mean, you're just not going to last if you don't have it. That has been my lifeline. I've always been a giver. And I have been impeccable with my word. And I don't mind taking a loss. I don't want to, but I would rather take a loss than to have a disgruntled customer. Unless, I mean, it's just, you're really just trying to create a situation. You're trying to take advantage of the situation, and that I do not stand for. But I have very strong conversations with my clients, and I speak very strongly and clearly, and I am very consistent in what I do and what I say and how I represent myself. So it's a no-brainer. And people subscribe off the faith of others because they've spoken so highly of me and how I deliver. And even if I'm a part of a fashion show, I ask certain questions. Who's involved? Who's over it? Who are the models? Do I bring my own models? Because all of this matters. And you have to understand what your brand is and how you want your brand to be represented and how you want people to speak about your brand. Because the language you speak about your brand will be the language people will try to interpret or add a little extra on it. So if they're going to add a little extra, it's going to be nothing but some goodness, because that's what I speak and that's what I walk in. And that's what is important, because I hear so many times people would meet me and be like, oh my God, you're nothing like what I expected.
What did they expect?
I was intimidated. I was like, why were you intimidated?
Oh my God.
You're just this designer, and you watching Project Runway and how people act and the perception and all this extra drama and everything like that. And I'm like, I just want to get to love. Oh, I just want to get to know you, love on you, make you feel good, and we're both winning. It's like that formula you just don't get. They're used to the snobby. Everybody's beneath me, and where's my scissors or my cloth, and carry on, and who do you think you are, and you're next to nothing. I'm like, that is such a nasty personality to have. I was like, that's not me. I don't want my clothes to represent that, and I just don't believe in any of that, And I mean, and my clients, and they have a good time. And I have this couch, right?
Yeah.
And everybody was like, when they come in, they are trapped for at least an hour and a half. On an average, my regulars, they're going to be there for about 3 hours. And it's just because, we're talking about everything in fashion and in the midst of everything. But that word of mouth of, oh my God, you get on that couch, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
So and it's all about the ambiance you create. And a creative type, you're in your space for long hours. So it has to communicate who you are. So when you walk in, you feel this. So people speak that. Oh my God, when you walk in there, it's just so, And I have little interesting things of my history and the things I like. Like, for instance, I have a Charles Bibbs at the door. And he's a fine artist. He's a painter. And he's an amazing African-American artist that has really made a staple for himself in affluent African-American homes. And I immediately know if that client starts talking about that picture, what type of echelon they're on. So I'm like, okay, I get this. So I have little triggers to help me understand my client without them saying anything or me asking questions.
Yeah.
And I just, all that is wrapped up into it. And that's the conversation that people will just emulate. But it's just the reputation. And it's not like I'm trying to be something that I'm not. And that's why I'm like, oh my God, you're nothing like what I thought you would be, because of the perception of designers and how they're so asinine, you know?
Yeah.
You know, one thing's a certain way. And now, don't get me wrong now. If it's time for a fashion show, if we have deadlines, you know, I may not be as friendly, but
Yeah.
there's a time and place for everything, like I always say.
Yeah, exactly. You can't be dragging your feet and we got to make a deadline in 3 days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And you know what? And speaking of something in 3 days, I've had the opportunity to design garments for people for funerals. And those are like the most gratifying and tragic all at the same time. And I just recently had one where her funeral was this past Saturday. Not yesterday, but the previous week. And our last conversation was at the UNCF, and she was like, Nikki, I'm coming to see you next. And this was in 2019, because clearly nothing happened in 2020.
Yeah.
And I said, you're right, because you are way too fashionable not to have a Nikki Blaine Couture in your closet. And when her son came to me, he texted me and was like, Nikki, I'm going to need for you to make a dress for my mom for her funeral. And I was like, excuse me? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, okay, that was our last conversation. But what are you talking about? You know, and she was literally dying of cancer. And he was like that. You know, she always talked about you all the time and how she got to get her Nikki Blaine piece. So I just got to make sure that at least I know she is going out in style. So, and mind you, every time she stepped out, she was going out in style. So, you know, I already knew how she carried herself. So I was like, well, I will definitely make sure, you know, she is doing it her way. And I was like, what color do you want her in? He was like, I want it all white, and I want her dress draping out of the casket. And I said, okay, I got you. And those type of moments are those moments that I was just like, wow, you know, everlasting life. This is how we're going to put you away. Yeah. And, you know, it's just gratifying for me. And I had that exact same experience right before I was getting ready to go to Paris Fashion Week. And I was looking like, oh my God, I really haven't even cut my collection out. And you want me to make this? And then she said, I want a matching dress. And I was just like, oh, okay. I'm leaving on the plane on Thursday, and this funeral is on Monday, and I'm still working on my collection. But it's one of those things where, you know what, this is most important when I know Fashion Week will always be there, you know,
yeah,
for somebody to reach out for this moment that is the very last moment is more gratifying than a moment that I know that'll be reoccurring. And that's my philosophy of, you know, speaking to my client and understanding their wants and their desires and their needs and creating this experience that is priceless. And that is what is important. And that's when the artistry in me comes out, because that's a gift that God has given me. And I want to make sure that gift is shared with others.
Yeah. 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 Also, and it's a great testimony that you would do that for that family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you this. This is I'm almost done.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, cool. So let me ask you this. So do you have any upcoming events, you know, that people can look at you virtually, see some things?
So my upcoming events, let me think. So I just recently had one where it was the International Fashion Week, and it was on the Fashion Bomb Daily and the Fashion Studio Officials live feed. So that's something that I really just finished 2 weeks ago. I'm caught up in my wedding. I have like 4 weddings before May 1st. So, and I don't really book anything until my custom orders are kind of lean.
Okay.
So at the moment, I am just really just cultivating my orders.
Okay.
And I'm a little reluctant to really participate because someone had reached out and wanted me to do this show in Virginia, but I'm all for a virtual fashion show, and I can submit you a video. But if you want me to show up with my clothes in an unfamiliar territory and you're not going to be mindful of COVID, I'm a little more reluctant to do that right now.
Yeah. I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. So let me ask you, final question. What are some words of wisdom you could give to those who are creatives and those who are, okay, I got this creative side, but, how do I balance it out with, knowing the business that I'm going into so I can take this passion, this hobby and monetize it?
There are so many. The world that we're in right now, I wish this world existed like 20, 30 years ago, or at least when I was in middle school, because everything is a click away. What is important is to understand what your craft is, what you want that product to be, hone in on it, develop it, understand it, and if it's just that one particular thing, do it well, finish it well, and also take some classes on business, how to market, and how to account for your books.
Okay.
Because those two things are going to be detrimental in the success of your business if you're trying to turn it into a business. Having a quality finished product and understanding how to cost it and how to create a profit for your product. Because even if it's something you're a novice and you don't know if you really want to do this or not, YouTube can be your friend if you Google the right follower and follow the right person that gives correct information. That's free information that you would have to pay for attending a college. That's if you don't go to college. I would say YouTube University for all of those. And even if you have, some of them just give good information on YouTube. So there's no excuse at this point. It's really what I'm getting at. There's no excuse to have a poor quality product. There's no excuse to not how to figure out your business. And even if you just can't really connect the dots mentally, there are so many like Fiverr where you can go online and a virtual assistant to kind of help you guide through things. Of course, that's the more expensive route, but it's so many tools out there now that it really doesn't make sense why you can't have a very good looking product. I mean, you don't even have to really own any inventory these days.
Yeah.
There's different websites that'll build the product out for you. All you need is a website. So there's just so much more out there that I wish was out there earlier for me, because I would have done things a little differently. And what I find with myself is because I have been doing this for so long, it's hard to break out of it.
How do you say that?
Because people are like, the question they ask is, well, is this a Nikki Blaine piece? Yeah, it's in the Nikki Blaine store. No. I mean, did you make it? I'm like,
wow.
So it's hard because they want that authenticity from me.
Okay. Yeah. So they want you, hey, I want your name. I want your fingerprints.
Mm-hmm. And if I repurpose it, it needs to be repurposed to the point where they can't find anything remotely like it. You know what I'm saying? Because I'll tell people, look, I'll build something out pre-existing, because I'm mindful of that too. My thing is this: I can make you look fabulous on any budget as long as it's realistic.
Yeah.
Now, if you say you have a $50 budget, you clearly just want me to hem or add a little bit of accessory, because my time is precious to me.
I can't imagine somebody asking you for $50.
Oh, wait a minute now. We have these prom girls that are oblivious. Now, I have one literally in my box. We were talking just the other day, and it was so funny because she was like, yeah, I went to school with your daughter, and my name is blah, blah, blah. And the funny thing is, I thought it was a spam because it said her name was a Facebook user and that she had submitted some sketches, but it looked like 8 different ketchup bottles.
Wow.
Like, this spammer and I blocked her. And then she called me and was like, yeah, I sent some sketches, but you never responded. And I was like, you sent sketches? I said, send it again. So then I laughed because I said, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were a spammer. Because they literally look like ketchup bottles. But if I clicked the image, which who wants to just click images and it already looks suspect, not in this world. So I said, I apologize. So then she had asked me, how much would it cost to make the dress? She was like, oh, no. I wasn't expecting something like that. So then I said, well, maybe you should find something. I can repurpose it. And then maybe that can fall in your budget at that point. So then she found this dress. She was like, how much would it cost to take the beads off and to add a mesh? So it's like, it was a strapless dress and she wanted me to create that illusion mesh. So it's not strapless anymore. So, I said, I don't know. I really have to look at it just to throw a number out there, $150, And she was like, oh, I've only paid $99 for this dress. So I said, you know what? You probably want to go a different direction because that was just an estimate. And I cannot, just because you paid $99 for a dress doesn't mean my work is equivalent to $15. That's not how that works.
Yeah.
So you do have to educate people without insulting them because, people are young and don't really, don't know.
Yeah.
So it was an educational moment that I just let her know. I was like, you know what? I really need to look at this, but I doubt very seriously that I'm going to do whatever your request is for less than that because my time is valuable.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the part people don't understand that, I don't know if they think you have a magical wand or something, but it's just, that's the part of the craft that's disconnected with people. Yeah. What you buy on the rack for $20 because that's a fast fashion and those people are living in unsafe conditions for you to pay just that inexpensive price doesn't mean everybody across the board is going to do the same thing because that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's the disservice that fast fashion has done to the fashion industry because it's totally unfair. And I would never, if I went to a manufacturing facility and they was making my brands and these people are living under harsh conditions and making under the amount they're supposed to be making, I have a serious problem with that. Now, the ethics, I cannot.
Yeah.
And that's been another struggle for me too, because it's like, okay, who can you trust? They've moved so many of these manufacturing facilities overseas. Now it's slowly coming back to the U.S. But I mean, the fashion industry has taken a hit because of that.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
A substantial hit, and it's unfair. But people, it's amazing how people do not care about other people's well-being. It's really sad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's like, they don't care. It's like, I don't care. Just make me my products.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So I just look at it like, and then a lot of people, and I'm going to get on my soapbox, they always complain about immigrants and this and that and taking of jobs. I'm like, well, y'all don't ever talk about the stuff that y'all send overseas. You can't get mad. You can't get mad, and when you
cannot get mad. And at the end of the day, everybody wants something for free until it's something that they're selling you.
Yeah, exactly. It's
like, oh no, have that same type of energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me the exact same energy.
Yeah, exactly. And I look at it, nobody. I mean, I think some people, when it comes to fashion, they think like, oh, they just putting it together with Velcro. Really?
Right. Exactly.
I'm like, nah.
And Velcro that had it self-adhesive on it, so they did not have to use a needle or thread of any sort.
Yeah. So I'm like, come on, you're like you said, you really don't know the appreciation or the intricacies that go into custom made clothing.
Right.
Because
you have to source all of the raw materials. And it's funny, like when I walk a client through the process, they're like, oh my God, this is really like a big deal just to get, I said, exactly. I said, and that's what I find interesting when people at midway, they decide, no, I don't want it. Well, no, you can't get your deposit back because, and mind you, my deposit is not even, like some people do like 50% down or you got to pay for the whole thing up front.
Yeah.
For the most part, I usually just request maybe, depending on what it is, from $200 to $600 for your deposit, because you need to be able to walk away from this money if all of a sudden you're not going to get married again, or you decide you don't want this prom dress anymore, that, you can walk away from this money because you're not getting this money back.
Yeah.
So, people will be like, I'm not understanding, you haven't even made anything for me. Well, I've already sourced the fabric. I may have already purchased the fabric, and in sourcing fabric, sometimes that takes hours and days of finding that exact color. Which, to be honest, you may not even pay my time in me just sourcing out that look for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you sit there and kind of halfway go through that process, which I do with the clients just so they can understand this is what I do to get to this finished product, I usually don't have a problem with people saying, oh, okay, well, yeah, just go ahead and just keep it in your inventory, or, I'll come back, or blah, 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 or if I can just get a credit towards something else, which is typically what I would offer them sometimes, depending on the situation scenario.
Yeah.
If it's just fabric and I have not even cut it, it's at my discretion. But most of the time, I'll say, you know what, I'll go ahead and just put this in my inventory and issue you a credit of whatever the difference is at that point, or something like that. Or maybe just make it a clean swipe and you still have that money on the book.
Okay.
Just because that is fabric that I personally like.
Yeah.
But what you will not do is tell me that's what I'm going to do. Because
exactly.
I may not want that fabric.
Exactly.
So, I try to work with people in that situation. But it's really interesting because you got the sourcing, then you have to cut the fabric, then you have to do the fitting, then you have to do the final fitting, and then you have to make sure, you still have to appease the customer. And here's the thing, there's always a process. Rarely do you go to a custom situation and you get it the next day or within 2 weeks or something like that. That's not up to norm by no means. People tend to fluctuate in their waiting times. Yeah. And if they, I want you to make it tighter, I want you to make it tighter. Then when they come for the pickup, then they can't fit it. Then that's a whole other situation. I have one friend that's a designer. He takes their measurements, and he was like, "If your measurements change, you're gonna have to take it someplace else to alter it because I'm not gonna touch it once it's finished." I mean, I know I have designer friends that are like that. Yeah. And I will tell my people, okay, if we're starting on this a whole year out, we're going to do a fitting, and then we're going to wait 6 months before I finish this, because what I'm not going to do is then have to go back into my work. I said, because then that's more work, and you'll have to pay for that. And they totally get that. And I said, especially if you think you're going to be losing weight, I want to make sure that you are comfortable in your piece and not that you got to come back to me because you planned too far in advance. Yeah. And I don't want people to be like, oh my God, now, I try not to have that stress on my clients. Okay. Everybody I know is not as hospitable as I am.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's why you got a good name. That's why you have a good name. So I totally get it. I mean, you're even willing to work with people, say like, hey, I'm getting a wedding dress, and then all of a sudden, right before the wedding, they break up.
Exactly. And that has happened before too, where I felt it in my spirit. This is not going to work. So I will, when guys start speaking to you, you're like, oh, well, she wants this. I have redirected the whole thought process in the bride is, you know what, let's think about this as a cocktail dress, or how you're going to transition this dress so it's just not sitting in your closet as a wedding gown and you never do anything else with the dress, just to make sure you're happy with this dress 5 years later from your wedding date, you know? Yeah. Because I want you to appreciate it if it happens or not. Yeah. And the funny thing is, in that situation, that wedding did not happen. And I was just like, and she was like, Nikki, you knew it. I could tell. And I said, it wasn't for me to say, but, I just didn't feel right to me. And I kept asking, are you sure you want to do this? I was like, let's make sure this dress is functional,
Yeah.
And when she said that, I just said, oh, okay. And she's like, you knew it. But I didn't even know the woman, but it was just like, I don't know. I just felt different.
Yeah.
I just felt different and very indifferent, which I thought was odd because that has never happened with a client before.
Okay. Yeah. So you're developing connections with your clients.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was definitely like, oh, wow, God must be really showing me some things. And I think that was definitely my revelation, too. I'm like, God is starting to show me things before things actually happen.
Yeah.
Because I was definitely like, this wedding is not going to happen.
So let me ask you this, like, because I know a lot of times when you're probably, fitting and people are coming to your studio, they start to open up. So did you hear anything during the midst of the conversation that said that this wedding ain't going to happen?
She had called him the very first time she showed up. And she was like, okay, I need for you to send me the money for the dress. And he was like, what dress? And then she was like, the wedding dress. And then he was like, oh, I'm just messing with you. And I was just like, didn't you tell him he was coming here? And then she was like, oh, yeah, he's just silly like that. And I was like, oh, okay. And then she was just like, well, I'm going to, her personality was very dominating. And I was just like, well, what does he think? I don't care what he thinks because I want this, that, and this. I said, well, how long you guys been knowing each other? And then she was like, oh, we grew up together. We're childhood sweethearts and this and that. And this. I was like, oh, okay. So then I was thinking, okay, you guys really have this. We're like family relationship. Okay, I get it. And then I was just like, her energy was just like, I'm like, I don't know if you're really ready to get married. And it wasn't like she was talking about other men or anything like that. She didn't give me a promiscuous spirit, but it's just something about a bride to be spirit that I just wasn't connecting and getting from her. And I was just like, are you sure you're ready to get married? Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then she kind of would daydream off. And I was just like, I don't know.
Okay.
It was interesting.
Yeah, I bet it was, because it sounded like that she was a little bit of bridezilla and she just wanted the day and not the marriage. That's what it sounds like.
And then that's what she turned around and said. That was the thing with him. That, he wanted it, but really didn't want the commitment and responsibility that came with it.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh, okay.
Wow.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I feel as though with that, I'm like, y'all could just have a nice party. Y'all ain't got to put all that money down for all them people to eat for free and get drunk and dance. I'm like,
Yeah, because I was like, maybe it should be a destination wedding or something a little intimate and, think of it more of like a cocktail evening gown dress. And she did move in that direction, so I was just like, okay. So I was like, yeah, since you guys been together for years, you don't really have to, it doesn't have to be a real formal way. She's like, no, I don't want it to be like looking like a formal wedding gown, but I just really want it to be very distinctive. I'm like, well, we can definitely do that. And, so she put down her deposit. I got the fabric, and then she was just like, oh, Nikki, I had such a good time with you. Just go ahead and just keep the fabric and don't worry about it. She was like, I'll reach out to you when I'm in a better headspace or I have another man. I was like, okay, fair enough.
Hey, that's what it's about.
Regard.
Yeah. It's about the comeback.
Exactly.
It's about the comeback. Let me give you some applause. So tell us, how can people contact you? How can people see your work online? How can they do all of that?
So I am Nikki Blaine Couture on all of the social media. Well, I shouldn't say all of them, but on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That's Nikki Blaine Couture. And you can definitely Google Nikki Blaine or Nikki Blaine Couture. And I am located at 99 North 1st Street, Zionsville, Indiana, 46077. And that is NikkiBlaine.com is my website.
All right. Let me give you some applause. I'm not going to lie. We definitely have to do this again because you could definitely tell our listeners about this whole thing about entrepreneurship.
Oh, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
I definitely want to get you back on, but I just want to say, hey, thank you. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for everything that you have been given to, to your clients, but also, everything that God has given you, because, there's not too many people that can take and give their God-given vision and dream and really start to see that thing materialize, manifest, but also become a source of income.
Yes, thank you. And I do appreciate it. And thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. Hey, you have yourself a blessed day.
You too. God bless you.
All right. God bless.
We'll talk soon.
All
Bye-bye.
right. All right. Bye. All right, guys. That was Nikki Blaine. So, hey, I want you guys to follow her online. Also, check out her designs because trust and believe there's definitely a difference between off the rack and custom.
Walk in the truth that makes you free every day. Follow Brother Leon on all social media outlets.